UFC 271, main event of the evening. Israel Adesanya, Robert Whittaker, undisputed middleweight championship of the world. Like, I have to say this, man. Like, I said it last night when I called in after the fight companion. Well, once the main event ended, I said, man, this is just one of these fights I didn't really score when I was watching it. Usually I try to keep track, like, okay, that's 1-1, 2-2, whatever. That fight, I just didn't care. I was just thoroughly entertained and just watching because I just knew, like, I've said this many times, like, with Brandon Moreno, Davis, and Figueiredo, these are the two best guys in their division. And it was a complete, utter chess match. Yeah. It was tactical. Both men were landing. Whittaker was shooting for the takedown attempts. Israel was defending immediately, getting back up to his feet. The takedown defense by Israel Adesanya that we've seen in that fight, and I don't see anybody taking that man down since, like, maybe Usman, but like Bud Usman. And we're going to say that. I'm sure his name's going to get brought up a lot today. But, dude, the way Izzy looked last night, he is the true greatest middleweight in the division right now. And I think if he keeps defending his belt looking as smooth as he is, dude, like, we're going to start talking about this guy with GOAT status here soon.
Yeah, it really is. And, like, you look at the history of Israel Adesanya, that defining moment of passing of the torch was against Anderson Silva. And I think that was a moment collectively as MMA fans. We all watched that fight. We watched what happened afterwards. We watched the exchange between Anderson Silva and Israel Adesanya. And I think everyone consensually knew that this man would be the next great middleweight champion. And he has exceeded those expectations now with 4 title defenses against a very tough Robert Whittaker. You know, and I was saying this in the preview show last week and on the Fight Companion probably 10 times, but I knew coming into this second fight it would be much closer, as you said, much more technical. But, man, Israel Adesanya, let's start there.
Yes.
It's just absolutely incredible to me, his takedown defense, because Robert was successful and he did take Izzy down. He did not implement any ground game because Izzy just kept getting back to his feet. And though some of those were technically takedowns, they don't score very well on a judge's scorecard when the fighter gets right back up. And that's something Izzy did brilliantly, man.
Absolutely.
I mean, I was very impressed with that. He definitely learned from that Jan Blachowicz fight and implemented a lot better takedown defense. I was just thoroughly impressed. And you know, as you said too, Tabor, you know, I watched that fight on the Fight Companion, and I kept going back and forth. I was like, maybe Izzy won, maybe Robert. But you're right. When I watched that fight, I wasn't really scoring it. I was just enjoying it as a mixed martial arts fan, as a UFC fan. You knew it was a very big moment for either one of these two fighters. I mean, had Robert Whittaker went out there and beat Israel Adesanya, we would have been looking at a massive trilogy fight between those two. But also the legacy and career of Israel Adesanya to go out there and get his 4th title defense against the former middleweight champ who he had already beat once is also a miraculous story. And I'm just so excited for the future of Israel Adesanya. And as you said, again, to kind of hit on that point, I do believe we are looking at the best middleweight on planet Earth right now. And I'm very excited to see the future of GOAT status. And it's so fun being a part of this journey with Israel Adesanya as an MMA fan, watching greatness being displayed fight after title fight, man. And I'm excited. I think Israel Adesanya could very well beat Anderson Silva's record for 10 title defenses.
Yeah, it's possible, dude. It's possible. I mean, like, really, the only 2 names that I really think have the most competitive chance with Izzy right now, it's Kamaru Usman and maybe a Hamza Chimaev.
Well, and Marvin Vittori.
Oh, yeah. Well, guys, he won that fight.
He did. He won that fight.
He lost, Marvin.
I set you up.
You're gone. You're gone, Marvin. Dude, it's just, it's wild to watch because, like, for the longest time, I was saying, yeah, Usman beats Izzy. I think he takes him down. I think he dominates him on the ground. Watching that last night, I don't know if that's the case.
I know.
I don't know if that's the case, but goddamn, I want to see it.
Yep. I just think realistically, you know, they obviously came out again. Usman and Izzy said that it would take $100 million for them to fight each other. So realistically,
that's never happening.
I don't think that fight will ever happen. And you know what? I'm actually okay with that. Let these champions be great in their own divisions. If they weren't friends, it'd be a different story. I'd love to see the fight, but I'm cool with it because Usman's pound for pound greatest in the UFC. Israel is close behind him. So you know what? I love watching greatness in these divisions. And again, I just don't know what's next for Israel Adesanya. Yes, Dana White in the post-fight press conference came out and said Jared Cannonier is the front runner for the next title fight against Israel Adesanya. And no disrespect to Jared Cannonier, looked absolutely phenomenal against Derek Brunson. We will jump into that later. But again, I just see Israel Adesanya completely dismantling him. And again, no disrespect to Jared. I love watching him fight. He had a very impressive performance, but Israel is just that good. He's got the length, he's got the reach, he's got the timing, the in and out. The kicks are just incredible. This man's going to be a champ for a very long time.
Yeah, I don't see anybody beating him in the middleweight division.
No.
Nobody. Name a guy in the top 15, I'm going to say Izzy smokes him every single time. Yep. I mean, Robert Whittaker in the post-fight press conference was saying he won that fight. He thought he did enough. And some of those rounds were very close, and he was landing nice combinations too. I mean, he was out counter-striking Izzy in a few of those exchanges, but was it enough to overact the leg kicks, the teep kicks, the body kicks Izzy was landing? And the way Izzy was in the matrix, every time Robert threw that sneaky combination, he loves doing that combination where I think it's like a double jab to a head kick or something like that. That's one of his favorites. It's one of his favorites. Did not land a single time last night. Izzy was in the matrix with a lot of those shots, just completely got out of the way at the last second and watched it go by. I love watching this man fight. I know there's a few people out there, Michael Chandler, Justin Gaethje, that don't like watching this man fight.
Yeah,
that was strange tweets by those two, man. I did not see that.
Let's kind of just talk about that briefly here because, you know, stylistically, what Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler are, they're brawlers. So they go in there and they put everything on the line. They win some, they lose some, and it is what it is. Israel Adesanya, and for guys like that who are brawlers, it's hard for them to kind of encapsulate what Israel Adesanya is and what true undisputed greatness is in continuing to defend that championship belt, which is something that Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler have failed to do in the same perspective as Israel Adesanya. So they had a problem with it. But as a mixed martial arts fan, I love all types of fighters. I love Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler, them fucking brawling and going at it. It's great. It's entertaining. It's fun. And we love those fighters for it. But a guy like Israel Adesanya, he's on the path to greatness. He's an incredible counter striker. He picks and chooses his shots. He moves around great. And those are the GOAT status fighters. And I understand why brawlers don't like that. But as a mixed martial arts fan, I completely disagree with their take as far as fan perspective, because that fight to me was extremely entertaining and something that I was just glued to the TV watching.
Yeah, absolutely. Dude, I was thoroughly entertained that entire fight. Yes, I mean, could you have said both men probably should have done more? Yeah, but like, think about the level of competition they're doing that against. Like, if you just decide just to throw wild shots, Whittaker could have put Izzy out.
Yeah.
Izzy could have put Whittaker out, vice versa, man. It's like, that's how you have to fight a man of that caliber. And I love the game plan by Robert. It worked. He did do a very good job closing that gap from the first fight. But it just wasn't enough, in my opinion. I almost feel like I think Whittaker just should have done more. Like he was respecting Izzy so much, and you have to, because Izzy has sneaky power. He could have flatlined Robert with any of those shots.
Well, and he did in the first fight, too.
And he did in the first round, too. He had that beautiful left hand right down the pipe, right down the middle, and he dropped Robert in that first round. So, I mean, that instantly won Robert's respect, as it should have. So, I mean, it's hard to sit here and play armchair quarterback. It's hard to sit here and be like, you know, hindsight's 2022 or some shit. Like, it is what it is, man.
It is what it is.
Izzy's just that good. You have to give him that level of respect. I thought Robert had a very good game plan coming into this fight, and it did work to a certain extent.
Yes.
But I just did not see him winning those rounds. Maybe the second I thought he had it, maybe the third, but I did edge it to Izzy. Maybe the fifth or fourth, but even in those rounds, I thought Izzy was just touching him more. I just thought he was doing enough to win it. I had it 4-1 personally. A lot of people say 3-2, and I could see 3-2. Yeah. I really can. It's just it's tough. Those rounds are so close, and I just had too much fun watching that fight. Like, I just can't definitively say who won, you know. But Izzy won the fight. Like, that's obvious.
I do want to talk on the side of Robert Whittaker, because he did have a really good game plan coming into this fight. And I thought he tried to implement a lot of what we expected him to implement. You know, the takedowns obviously were key here. But the only issue with that is he was finding success with the takedowns. He was not finding success keeping Israel Adesanya down in the control. Absolutely.
Which shocked me and Devin. Me and Devin were talking about this before we started recording. Robert Whittaker had 3 minutes and 40 seconds of control time. Where did that come from? Because I did not see 3 minutes and 40 seconds of him controlling him on the ground. So they must have taken some of that clinch work, maybe some of the cage work into consideration there. But even like when Robert took his back, twice, that didn't last very long, maybe 10, 15 seconds at the most. I don't know where that 3 minutes control time came from, but I believe Robert was like 4 for 10 on the takedown. So, he did a great job. He needs to hold his head high. He even said in the post-fight, like he was very, very... he wasn't upset with his performance. Yeah. He was happy with it.
Well, and he should have been happy with it. Again, it was a technical chess match, and it entertained all the fans, and we loved it, and it was a great main event and a great rematch. Yes. At the end of the day. It really was.
Yes, it really was. Shout out to AJ Wolf here in the chats. Izzy is the second greatest middleweight in history as of right now. Yes, he
Absolutely.
is. So, Ant W, in 6 title fights, Izzy has had 3 very close fights. He's had a good run and nowhere near the dominance of Prime Silva, GSP, and Jones.
Here's the thing. He's so early in his title defenses. I mean, let's keep in mind, I think Israel Adesanya after that win is 22-1.
That's 6 title fight victories. Yeah. I mean, he's halfway there. He just signed a massive, let's talk about the contract. He just signed a massive groundbreaking deal with the UFC. He is now probably one of the top paid athletes. I believe he's top 5 at least.
Yeah, and I saw something, and you guys can fact check us in the comment section, or in the chats, but I saw that Izzy made about $1.2 million for that fight, and I don't know if that includes pay-per-view buys or an outright what he made for that title.
Maybe
fight.
That was just his purse.
I think it very well may have been, realistically. Yeah. I mean, Izzy's a big star. He's going to be a big star, and this is the aspect of Israel Adesanya that I believe is the reason why he gets paid more in the UFC. You look at a guy like Francis Ngannou, very dominant, powerful heavyweight, so much fun to watch. The people love him, but he does not have the same business as Israel Adesanya. Izzy's got almost 1 million subscribers on YouTube. He's doing all these other things to promote himself to get more people to buy his pay-per-views, unlike a Francis Ngannou. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that Ngannou doesn't deserve more money. He does. I'm just saying this is the reason a guy like Israel Adesanya is able to make $1.2 million because of the fan base that he brings in and the fact that he is that mega superstar.
And you asked me last night when I called in, I'm going to ban that guy. Sister 90 online, whatever the fuck. You're getting banned. But you asked me last night, why haven't they put as much behind Israel Adesanya in terms of promotion for this pay-per-view card?
That was something that completely shocked me and surprised me because it's such a great rematch, and you figure you would have promoted this fight more. Yeah. But again, maybe they rely more on Israel Adesanya and his channel.
Because he's such a big star already. Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely correct. Maybe they were just thinking, he's going to bring in the numbers no matter what, and he deserved the money. So hopefully that was his person. Hopefully he's getting pay-per-view on top of that. I'd love to see the pay-per-view numbers. I know the gate was ridiculous. It was the biggest gate they've ever done in Houston. So that's what Dana said. So shout out to everybody in the UFC right now for putting on that fight. Shout out to everybody that showed up last night in Houston because that building was fucking rocking, dude. Yeah, it was a lot of fun watching.
AJ Wolf just came in and said $1.2 million is just the base without pay-per-view.
That's what I figured.
Yeah, so he made a great money. And you think about this. Israel Adesanya gets paid more because what does the UFC do? They pay less money in advertising to advertise his pay-per-views because he's doing it on his own channels. Mm-hmm. It's just business. I'm not saying it's right or wrong or whatever for Ngannou, but, when you don't have to pay as much, you can pay your fighter more. I'm not taking the side of fucking Dana or anything like that, but it is a reality. It's a business reality.
Yeah.
Shout out to Oluwasolamipe Ajay. He says, Soul from Nigeria. What's up, man?
Yeah, sorry we butchered your name there, my guy.
Sorry, man. That's a long name.
Shout out to you. Thank you so much for showing up. If you aren't subscribed already, man, make sure you go and do it and join the congregation. Appreciate the hell out of you. So let's end this main event talk. Absolutely incredible performance by both men. Absolutely incredible performance on the side of the champ. The champ retains his belt. What do we do with Robert Whittaker next? I mean, obviously, Jared Cannonier is up next for Izzy. What do we do with Robert Whittaker here? Because now he's in his tricky situation. He said that third fight's inevitable.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, he's already beaten everybody right now. I mean, think about it. Do you do Vettori? You could do Vettori, Whittaker.
That was the first name that came to mind. Vettori's number 2. Obviously had the dominant loss to Israel Adesanya. Robert Whittaker's fight was a lot closer. I like that matchup, and that's someone that at least Robert hasn't. If he has fought him, it has been quite a while because he fought Gastelum, Cannonier, Till. And I don't think he's actually ever fought Vettori. I could be wrong.
No, I don't think so either. So I think it's Vettori or Strickland, dude.
Or Strickland. Strickland would be a great matchup.
That would be a fantastic matchup. I'd love to see that.
And if anyone deserves it, it's Sean Strickland over Vettori. I mean, no offense, but we got to get some new blood in this middleweight division.
Absolutely.
And if Sean Strickland go out there and upset Robert Whittaker, you got to give Sean Strickland. I mean, new blood, man. We can't keep doing these rematches. With Israel Adesanya, maybe throw an occasional new guy like Sean Strickland. I like it.
I love that matchup a lot. Yeah, shout out to both these men, man. I was so thoroughly entertained watching these fights, and I had so much fun doing it. So, yeah. Thank you so much for putting on an entertaining one, guys. Shout out to both of you.
Shout out.
Let's get into church coin picks. I went all in on Whittaker. I really needed to make some cheddar this week. Did not work, so I lost 3,668 church coin on that matchup.
Yikes. Yeah, I put 2,000 on Israel Adesanya and got a return at a -300 for 667 church coin.
All right, Cosmo put 7,742 church coin with that all-in on Izzy. He did hit it. It gave him a nice big return of 2,581 church coins. Shout out to you, Cosmo, for that one.
Shout out to you, Cosmo.